Josh Atkins left Cambridge, England. He gave up his life, his career, and his home to move across the ocean to Portland, Oregon, to marry the woman he loves. And this week on 90 Day Fiancé, he stood in the corner of a bar at Catie's birthday party and watched her wrap her arms around one man after another, begging them to kiss her. "Can I kiss everyone?" she asked the room. She leaned into the laps of two different men who physically pushed her away. She grabbed her friend Ryan by the neck and said, "I want to kiss you." And Josh, the most tolerant fiancé this franchise has maybe ever produced, finally hit his breaking point. He put on his coat, said, "This is Bull's tea," to himself, and walked out of the bar. This was the moment fans had been waiting for all season, and it was every bit as painful as we thought it would be. Let's break it down. Here's the full context of who these two are. Catie Norbo is a 26-year-old free spirit from Portland who spent 3 years traveling the world as a nomad before settling down. Josh Atkins is a 30-year-old from Cambridge, England, calm, reserved, patient, and by his own admission, not big on public displays of affection. And the way they met tells you everything about the dynamic. Catie didn't even meet Josh first. She matched with his friend Dave on Tinder, went out with Dave's friend group, and made out with Dave that night. Then, after Dave got kicked out of the bar, she made out with another one of his friends, who she thought was hot. She also tried to make out with Dave's best friend, but he had a girlfriend. And then she tried to hook up with Josh, but he turned her down because she'd already kissed 2 of his friends. It was only when he walked her home that they kissed on a bench. She later invited him to Milan. They fell in love, and eventually she proposed to him. So from the very beginning, Catie's kissing habit was baked into their origin story, and she's been upfront about it. On the season premiere, she explained, "I have intrusive thoughts as part of my OCD. When I get drunk, I really want to make out with everyone I know, especially when I'm in a happy mood or in a really insecure bad mood." She admitted, "I just get really into the moment, and I'm like, I think making out with this person is a great idea. And crucially," she said, "I'm worried that this is going to be a hard thing to give up. Now I want to be careful and fair here, because Catie has attributed this behavior to her OCD. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is a real and serious mental health condition, and intrusive thoughts are a genuine symptom of it. So I'm not here to mock her diagnosis or dismiss what she's dealing with. But here's where it gets complicated. Even Josh has started to wonder whether this is really about OCD or whether it's more connected to a drinking problem. Because the pattern is specific, it happens when she's drunk. And that distinction matters, because the solution to each is very different. Let's talk about what actually happened at the birthday party, because it was genuinely hard to watch. According to People's exclusive clip, Catie started the night by wrapping her arms around Josh and another man, asking the room, "Can I kiss everyone?" So Josh immediately said no, and told her to drink some water. She said okay, and then instead of getting water, she went and leaned into the laps of 2 other men, asking, "Can we kiss?" Both men pushed her off and refused. One said flatly, "No, we're not kissing, Catie." She kept going. She moved on to her friend Ryan, a man she's hooked up with in the past, put her hands around his waist, and said, "I want to kiss you." Ryan pulled away and told her, "You're being crazy." And Catie actually agreed with him. She said, "Yeah," but she still kept leaning in. And through all of this, the cameras kept cutting to Josh's face across the room. His expression said everything. In his confessional, he said, "I'm giving Catie a lot of slack, and already it feels a little bit like that's being thrown in my face." He said her behavior made their conversations about boundaries feel pointless, and made their entire relationship seem unserious. He said, "I thought we were past this, but clearly we're not." And then he put on his coat, muttered, "This is Bull's tea," and walked out of the bar, while Catie was still trying to kiss Ryan in a booth. Here's what makes this so brutal. This is not a case of a jealous, controlling partner overreacting to his fiancée having friends. Josh has been extraordinarily tolerant. Earlier in the season, Catie introduced him to 2 men she'd banged multiple times, some of it after she'd already started dating Josh. And Josh's response was essentially, "As long as you want to be with me, I'm fine with it." Even Catie's own friends marveled at his patience. One told him, "You roll through the punches way better than I ever could." Another said Josh is obviously all in, but worried Catie would keep making big mistakes. That friend described her perfectly. "Catie can be wild. She'll drive the crowd, push everybody to go karaoke, let's all make out. And once she's been drinking a certain amount, that definitely gets cranked up." So Josh isn't the problem here. Josh has bent over backwards to accommodate Catie. He moved countries for her. He accepted her past. He met the men she slept with, and shook their hands. And in return, he watched her beg multiple men to kiss her at her own birthday party, while he stood there. That's not a boundary issue. That's a respect issue. And here's the part that I think a lot of people are landing on. There might actually be a simple solution here.
that neither of them seems willing to say out loud. If Catie's urge to make out with everyone only happens when she's drunk, then the obvious fix is, don't get drunk around large groups of friends. That's it. Catie is allowed to have friends. She's allowed to drink. She's allowed to live her life. But if she genuinely can't control the urge to physically force herself on people when she's intoxicated, to the point where those people are pushing her away and calling her crazy, then not drinking heavily in those specific situations is a completely reasonable ask. And it would protect not just her relationship with Josh, but also her friends, who clearly seem uncomfortable being propositioned. Multiple people rejected her at that party. That tells you the friends aren't enjoying this either. Now here's the twist that reframes everything. Despite all of this on-screen chaos, all signs point to Catie and Josh actually still being together, and possibly even married. Catie posted a video of Josh proposing. She tagged him in photos from his Welcome to America party. He appeared in photos from her March 2026 trip to Turkey. And most tellingly, Josh is still living in the United States and remains active on social media alongside her. Under the terms of a K-1 visa, if he's still in the country, that strongly suggests they got married within the 90-day window. So as painful as these episodes are to watch, the couple appears to have found a way to make it work, at least for now. But that raises the real question. Did Catie actually address the behavior? Or did Josh just decide to accept it? Because if they got married without solving this, if Catie is still getting drunk and propositioning her friends after the wedding, then this isn't a happy ending. It's a countdown. Because tolerance has a limit, even for someone as patient as Josh. And a marriage built on one person constantly forgiving the other for humiliating them in public isn't a marriage. It's an endurance test. Here's where I land. I have genuine compassion for Catie if she's struggling with OCD, and I'm not going to pretend to diagnose what's really going on with her. But I also have a lot of empathy for Josh, who left everything he knew to build a life with someone who keeps making him feel like an afterthought at parties full of men she slept with. Both things can be true. Catie can be dealing with something real, and Josh can still deserve to be treated with respect. And the healthiest version of this relationship, if it's going to survive, requires Catie to take ownership of the drinking piece, and Josh to be honest about whether he can actually live with this long term. Because right now, they're calling it an impossible problem, and it isn't. It's just an uncomfortable one. The tell-all for this season is going to be absolutely wild. And I cannot wait to see whether Catie and Josh made it, and whether she finally figured out that the fix was in front of her the whole time. Pop off in the comments. Do you think Josh should stay, or should he head back to Cambridge? Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.